and our own Petesy Carroll is standing by via the magic of Skype. Let's talk to him. There he is in his brand new office. Wow, look at this guy. Look at that smile. That's amazing. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you? I've
I'm
been
doing
having a
okay.
few little power naps throughout the day, but I'm fairly good to go now, I think.
You recovering? You're all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm going to make it.
Okay, good. Phenomenal work last week. It was great to follow your coverage. You did a great job. I mean, for a guy who couldn't even turn on a camera 2 weeks ago, you did pretty darn well, my friend.
Yeah, I had a lot of help, it has to be said, from my colleagues on press row. They were very good to me. I was kind of like a baby back at UFC London, so I was able to. I had a bit more experience this time around, but they still helped me throughout the week so much. So I really couldn't have done it without them. So I'm very grateful for that.
Nice to see some unity among the media corps. It's great to hear that as well. So I wanted to have you on, of course, to talk about the weekend, the highs, the lows. But first, I know a lot of people may mistake this, but I know you're not English, so I don't want to put you in the same category as Michael Bisping. But you do live pretty nearby, and you are European, and I'm sure you grew up somewhat in this sport alongside Michael Bisping and followed his career very closely. When I say Michael Bisping, what's a favorite memory or two that comes to mind?
Yeah, well, like I just think he's a real pioneer for this scene. I can remember when Conor had obviously broke through in the UFC for Ireland. It was always like, oh, this is the guy who's made the path. But if you think about it, 8 years before, Michael Bisping had already been down that same path. So he's really opened the door that all these European guys walk through. Absolutely unbelievable. I guess personally, covering the Anderson Silva fight was absolutely amazing in London. Just seeing him kind of rally and come back after we all thought the fight was finished. That was brilliant. And then, like, even just from my own group of friends, UFC 199, he just completely captured the imagination with that and went out and scored that massive upset win over Luke Rockhold. I think those two moments, they were quite close together. So I think they'll always be my top moments for Bisping.
Yeah, the amazing thing to me about Bisping, and I think what defines his career, is that, like, I think back to sitting down with him at UFC 186, and at that point he was coming off the first loss to Luke Rockhold in Australia, and it sort of felt like, okay, that was his best chance, and now he'd kind of just be sort of a gatekeeper. We've seen this often in the UFC and in MMA, and the fact that he went from that guy who was telling me in his interview, yeah, I'm just going to win a couple here, and then I'll be in the title picture, and then I'll finally get the belt, and actually achieving that. There are so many times, and New York Rick and I would argue about this all the time, where I thought this was his last chance. He's not going to get over the hump. That was his best shot. And the fact that he kept overcoming those obstacles and losing the big fight, but then finally breaking through, and it took a little luck with, of course, Chris Weidman getting injured prior to 199. That to me sums up who he is. Like, he is the quintessential English fighter in the sense that he was knocked down so many times and some way, somehow stuck around long enough and blazed a big enough trail to finally make it to that title fight. And then once he got that one opportunity, he broke through. And that's why it really bothered me after winning the belt when people would say he's picking fights. Because Michael Bisping never picked fights. He fought everyone. He fought the toughest guys. That's the thing that really bugged me after that sort of narrative that developed, in the year after beating Rockhold in that second fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I mean, I feel like every single person in the MMA world actually ruled him out apart from himself, and I think that's
Yeah.
an amazing
Yes.
thing for fighters to aspire to. Like I was talking to Nathaniel Wood today, who of course makes his debut at the weekend in Utica, and he was singing Bisping's praises. You know what I mean? To watch this guy never give up on himself and to reach that goal. I think for everybody watching. I know you couldn't watch it that night, unfortunately, but I think for everybody watching, that was a very emotional thing to see Bisping get that goal. You know what I mean? It was an amazing thing to see.
Thanks for reminding me of that, by the way. I still have not seen that fight in its entirety, by the way.
Really?
Yes, I still not. I can't go back because I think
That's
about what was
Carmel,
going on. Yeah, I'm a little too. Maybe now I could come to terms with it
get
all.
over it.
Yeah, I
Okay, that's
guess.
no.
I have those wounds and I continue to lick them, I guess. But yeah, it's amazing. Do you agree with me though? Like, do you think it would have been a really special thing had he walked out song two Liverpool in the middle of the cage? Do you feel like that would have been apropos? Because I got some people saying, "Oh, he's from Manchester." No, the Liverpool fans
No,
would have cried. It's stupid, right?
no, yeah, they would have given him the reception like that he deserves 100%. I think you're dead right about that. And, you know, just hearing about the eyes, the issues, like this is the right decision, you know what I mean? And I think it was slightly underwhelming to kind of wake up this morning and the news had broke
Yes.
for as a European guy, like it was
Yeah.
already out 4 hours. It's like, what the hell? But I just thought there'd be a bit more planning with that. Like it seems like it was nearly like you just made the decision and went with it straight away. Didn't kind of waste any time. Let's get this done. And maybe that's what it's like. Maybe it's just like removing a Band-Aid. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just one of them things, just let's get it done so it's done and I can't go back on it. Maybe that's what he was thinking.
The same way I feel like I can't possibly do what someone like Michael Bisping does. Like there is no gene in my body that would allow me to walk into a cage and fight another human being. I don't want to criticize the way he says goodbye, because if that's the way it felt right for him, then that's the way it felt right for him. You know, do it on his podcast, maybe try to sweep it under the rug, you know, with less fanfare, not do a whole big shebang. Although he did mention on Twitter today that he will have a sort of more formal, you know, statement or announcement, if you will. But you know, if that's the way he wanted to do it, then God bless him.
Text message would have been nice or something, wouldn't it?
It would have been nice. Yes, it would have been nice. I mean, doing it on this show today, I would have bumped you off the top, you know, the top interview of the
Oh,
day,
I
and then
know. Oh, yeah. Under illusion, believe me, I know. I would have been turfed straight away.
Okay, so of course we could talk about Michael Bisping for an hour, and I would love to do it, but so much has happened, you know, in the last few days, and you were at both events. Could I ask if it's possible to pick one? What was the highlight of those, you know, those 2 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? You could pick something else if you want, but of those two events, like what's the thing that sticks out the most?
Um, I think MVP's win at Bellator was absolutely huge. It just felt that was my first time watching Michael Venom Page live. That whole event seemed like a complete home run for Bellator. When you think about it, like if you look at that card beforehand, the main card, Gegard Mousasi win was huge and a convincing win. Kind of getting back from that debut, I think, you know, he was quite angry with the reaction of his debut because it wasn't completely one-sided and he wasn't dominant. The same thing we see with a lot of UFC guys going to Bellator, let's be honest. So, but I have to say, MVP was the star of that night. It felt absolutely huge. And obviously one of the biggest moments of the whole weekend, I'd say, was MVP. But again, Darren Till's entrance was absolutely unbelievable. You know, real shades of Dublin in 2014 about that spine tingling stuff. And I was actually walking into the arena because I was backstage shooting the last video, and then I was walking into the arena as his song started. I'm not going to lie to you, it kind of felt like I was walking out, you know what I mean? Just like shaking as I was walking in. It was brilliant. So, I mean, those two moments, they're right up there at the top, to be honest with you, Ariel.
It sounds like that you would think that all that is for you, all that fanfare is for
Yeah.
you. That's a typical Irishman attitude. But it's interesting. You say MVP and his performance, and obviously that's a great choice. You talk about Till's walkout, but you don't mention Till's performance. You don't mention the fight itself. Why not?
I loved the fight. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought I was right front and center for it, and I was so tense throughout the thing. Like, I mean, it was so tense. I knew that, like, both these guys, you could tell they're both looking at each other, like, and one mistake could cost this fight. That's the way it felt like both guys were kind of fighting, you know? You could even see, like, Darren talked about it in the post-fight press conference. He talked about how he was trying to give Wonderboy the impression that he was trying to put him out of there at all times. And he was making faces at him as if, like, he was about to throw a big punch all the time. Like, there was so many little games going on in this fight. It was unbelievable. And there was nothing in it. Like, I couldn't, like, we were sitting there trying to discuss the rounds with the other media members there, and we honestly, up until the fifth round was the only round where we knew, well, Till definitely won that one because he knocked him down. It was impossible, and everybody in the media room after had different scorecards. Nobody agreed unanimously on any round. It felt like everyone had a different selection of rounds, with just Till in the fifth was pretty much a staple of everyone's card. It was incredibly tense. The entrance was brilliant, but I understand that. I even talked to some guys in the airport about this. For fans who just, like, you know, casual fans that are coming there to see a fight they're coming to see a star born. They're expecting to see, you know, a war. They don't want to see these chess matches. And, like, I personally love it. I love the fight. I thought it was very interesting. But from what I'm hearing, like, I mean, a lot of people weren't satisfied with it as a spectacle at all.
Who did you score it for?
I scored it for Till, but I mean, I even tweeted it just before the the announcement, I was like, this is completely up in the air. Like, I'm not, like, either way, everyone's going to call this a robbery. If Thompson win, I think that people will call it a robbery. If Till wins, they're going to call it a robbery. I thought it was that close. I really did. It doesn't surprise me that it's so disputed and debated. I haven't got a chance to watch the broadcast, and I'm really looking forward to watching the broadcast. It's still blacked out over here. So I'll have to have a look again. But at the time, I think it's very hard for even to remember what rounds I was scoring because they were so tight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think I had like 1, 2, 5, I think, for Till. But like I can see even now when I'm saying that, I'm thinking about Wonder Boy's body shot in the first round, which was really good. But there was such tiny moments, you know. Like I don't think, I think there's an argument either way. It's I think the crowd as well were massively beneficial to if the judges could be swayed. I mean, every punch that Darren was even whiffing on, like, I mean, the stands were exploding. You know what I mean? It was a really intense atmosphere. But again, if someone had it for Thompson, I wouldn't dispute it either. I mean, I think it's right down the middle there.
Yeah, I was going to add, I'm not offended by anyone who scored it for Till. I'm not offended by anyone who scored it for Wonder Boy. Honestly, I mean, I feel like the judges really had a hard task on their hands on Sunday. I'm offended by the word robbery because it's not a robbery either way. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? It's not a robbery. It was just controversial, right?
I have a judge, Ben Cartledge over here. He's one of the best judges in the world. He does a lot of events over here, and he always says to me, like, I mean, people just don't understand the small margins here.
Yeah.
You know, a 30-27 card can look ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, it could be just the slightest margins that win people around, and then this is a robbery, and it kind of like, you know, it makes the judges look bad then and stuff. But I'm, you know, this is just MMA, isn't it? Like, it's always people getting on their high horses and getting excited about these things. So, I mean, I'm just used to it. Like, I called it before it even happened. I knew people were going to be jumping up and down about it. It's just the way it is. It's you know, I fully expected it. As soon, just when I was watching the fight, I knew that was the way it was going to go.
We'd be remiss if we don't bring up the fact that this main event almost didn't happen, and that would have been the ultimate disaster for the UFC. Darren Till missed weight. Had personal issues to attend to. The UFC and Dana White in particular seemed to be understanding. He didn't blast him. Did say, you know, you should be making weight, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't your typical fire from Dana because he did seem to have some personal issues. But then one of the big stipulations was he had to weigh 188 or less on Sunday morning. He ends up weighing 187.3, so that was a massive bullet dodge by everyone involved. Do you feel now like he will be somewhat penalized? Like, does he not progress as much as he would have had he made weight and won? Do you think that they're going to slow his roll, so to speak? Or do you feel like he's back on that fast track? Like they're really going to get behind this guy? And should they really get behind him? Do you feel like you've seen enough out of him thus far?
I'm actually been blown away by his improvements in the last 2 fights. I think it's crazy. Even to take that Cerrone fight short notice, that seemed like a massive step up at the time. Now, obviously, he's a big size advantage, but, you know, it's crazy to think that he's gone from Cerrone to like the best guy in the UFC. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best striker in the UFC, and to look so good. Like, I don't care if you had that for Thompson. If Darren Till came up slightly short against Thompson in someone's estimation, that's incredible. That's really incredible for a guy like that in such a short amount of time. Like, I was looking back at an interview I did with Darren last year in May, before he kind of came back from that 18 months off, and he was like, oh, I don't care about money. Like, I'll never care about money. Once I have a nice pair of trainers and a full belly, that's all I ever care about. And you're just like, I bet you that's changed now, mate.
Yeah.
I'd say that's changed a good bit, buddy. But I think he's doing a great job. I do have issues with his size. He's huge, as he says himself. He's the gorilla, you know. He's a unit of a man. I was watching an interview with Darren about a week before this fight with Jim Edwards, and he said that he weighed 190 pounds a week out. That's huge. Like, and I think you see young guys doing this. You see kind of guys his age, 25, getting away with this. But as soon as you get older, that's suddenly, just one day, that's going to become incredibly difficult. He's going to miss weight. And the problem is now, everyone's going to be looking at him like they're looking at Mackenzie Dern now. Do you know what I mean? Every time she's on the scales, it's the big story. Everyone's watching it so closely, and that must add stress to the situation as well. He's missed weight twice in the UFC. He needs to come in at 170 now the next time on the nose to prove this. Will they put him into an interim title situation or a title situation? I don't know. I don't know. That's like, it's hard to know with the UFC. You know, it
Yeah.
really is. They're really fond of this guy, I think, but I don't think it's crazy to think that they might give him another fight at 170, like a Masvidal or something, to make sure he can hit the weight before he goes into them title conversations.
Is that the kind of opponent you would book him? I know. I mean, he says himself. And I give him a lot of credit for this. Like, hey, I'm not asking for a title shot. Like, you don't hear him really banging that drum. He said all those c words are going to get it right. So, is it a Masvidal kind of guy that you put him up against?
I don't know. You know what I mean? I think there were like I thought there were a lot better choices than Wonderboy. You know,
Mm,
for the
I
Liverpool
agree.
card. Like when you think about that UFC Dublin card, and I really feel like that was the blueprint that the UFC used here. I think everybody kind of agrees they were trying to create a star before they bring Darren to America, like make him look like this huge star, which he did. Um, I would have still done like a Mike Perry fight there. So, well, maybe not Mike. He had dropped a couple of, but something like, I mean, Mike would have driven so many headlines. Like for him to go in against Wonderboy, a guy who's fought for the title twice and came up just short, and to do that well is crazy. So like I really felt like they were giving him a very, very tough task there. So for him to come through the other side of it, even if, as I said already, even if he had came up slightly short in the unanimous decision, that would have been a huge statement for him as far as I'm concerned.
Phenomenal weekend in England. PT, your coverage was top notch. Great job, my friend. Get some rest. And thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. It's good to catch up with you.
Thanks, bud.
All right, there he is, PT Carroll stopping by.